And we need a place for everybody to go 365 days a year, not just when it's cold. And so again, we are advocating in our strategic plan that this is not the way to help people, because people become homeless in June and in November and in July and throughout the year. And we should always have places throughout the city, not just in one location. I'm appalled at the NIMBYism and the hypocrisy in the city when people tell me that they want to help, and then when we try to fund shelter beds in a particular location that came through the Planning Commission, it was, oh no, not in my backyard. You can put a shelter someplace, but not my backyard. What we're advocating for in this plan is to allow us to have shelters throughout the city, so that you don't have to get on a bus, you don't have to figure out a way to find it, that the services are there where you need them.
Now, all of that sounds great when you're in a room where you have to say certain things to get a certain result, especially if you're going to be ushered out in your car later, as Ellen Robertson was. But the problem is, she talked about hypocrisy, she talked about NIMBYism. She said it's an outdated system to say that you can only provide certain services for people experiencing homelessness between October and April, and that maybe that was fine back in 1990, but that's not good for current day, and that's not good for the future strategies of Richmond. And to talk about we need to fund these types of initiatives. Yet, this is the same person that I saw stand up at a 5th District Council meeting with Stephanie Lynch and talk about Navy Hill. So how can you talk about, even as she said, that, you know, the low income and homelessness crisis is way more of a crisis we should be focusing on than just affordable housing. Yet we'll stand up for a program that requires $620 million over the years of the city's income to build an arena. There was even someone there who I believe was from the NAACP that talked about they could open up the Coliseum instead of having this ploy that it's blighted to pass the system. But what I'm here to specifically talk about, she talked about, and Blaine called it NIMBYism, this October to April rule. But if you actually read the ordinances, here, and this is one of the ordinances introduced August 5th, 2019, that speaks of amending the city code. And if you go to page 7, you see certain changes to zoning. Number 1, breweries. Breweries producing not more than 10,000 barrels of beer per year, and distilleries producing not more than 25,000 cases of liquor per year. So breweries are introduced, and they can be run they can be run at any month during the season. Breweries are okay. But churches and other places of worship, which may include the serving of food for charitable or fellowship purposes, and as an accessory use, the temporary housing of not more than 30 homeless individuals within churches and other places of worship, subject to meeting applicable building code and fire code requirements for up to a total of 7 days, and only within the time period beginning on October 1st of any year and ending on April 1st of the following year.
The current situation for cold weather overflow shelters is a part-time place between October and April, only when the temperatures fall below 40 degrees to provide shelter for people. That is not who we are today. Maybe that was the best practice in 1990, but folks, it is 2020. And we need a place for everybody to go 365 days a year, not just when it's cold. That this is not the way to help people, because people become homeless in June and in November and in July and throughout the year. And I'm appalled at the NIMBYism and the hypocrisy in the city when people tell me that they want to help, and then when we try to fund shelter beds in a particular location that came through the Planning Commission, it was, oh no, not in my backyard.
So the same thing that she calls NIMBYism and hypocritical and outdated when she's not in a room full of people that she'd be denying services to under these ordinances. She's in another room with Stephanie Lynch and people from the 5th District talking about how great this project is when it does the very same things that she's reprimanding to get applause from people. The problem with the Stoney administration and the problem with this last Hail Mary pass push is that they have been aware of these things for quite some time. And what they say doesn't match what is on paper, which is why all these community benefits and all these other things that I'm talking about, I've talked to many of the organizers on their side, and I said, make sure what you have is on paper. Because a lot of people like to talk about faith. A lot of people talk about faith over fear. But as Desmond Tutu always said, when the missionaries came, they had the Bibles and we had the land. But when we closed our eyes, they had the land and we had the Bibles. It talks about faith that's not blind. Faith that's not naive. God has no respect of person, so it's not faith to have somebody, mostly white developers and investors have all their stuff in writing, and then you tell poor black communities to just operate on faith. But when we want to have a homeless shelter open when it's 43 degrees instead of 40, it's not feasible. And so, in even a letter that I wrote back to the mayor back in August 21st, 2019, where I very clearly stated to the mayor my concerns. Though I would love to be able to support the project, there are several red flags for me. When I see zoning ordinances that would limit a houses of worship's ability to house and serve the homeless and lease these to October 1st to April 1st, I have concerns. This is stuff that I told him way back in August 21st, so to try and pack all this stuff in at the back, and that's not even something they've agreed to him into, when a lot of these things that I've been saying consistently, I let the mayor know back in August 21st, but when they thought they were winning and when they thought their process, their anti-democratic process was winning, they were fine with it. But as soon as the tables flip and the tables turn, then suddenly they want to cry that there's not a democratic process. When it's these same Navy Hill developers that turned out people to vote against a non-binding referendum so that people could have access to the ballot, the same type of access to the ballot that Fannie Lou Hamer, Sophie Carmichael, Dr. King, and so many people fought to have. But now they want to talk about a democratic process when things are not going their way. And they want to say one thing in public and do something very different in private. And at this time, there is not enough trust, there is not enough due diligence, there is not enough fiscal responsibility to proceed with this project. And that's why a vote to stop Navy Hill is a vote to stop the violence. Thank you.